Now that we have a function that we can use to fool any computer in the network, let's use this function twice. So we tell the victim that we are the router, we tell the router that we are the victim, and this will effectively put us in the middle of the connection, redirecting all packets sent or received by the target victim to go through our computer. So this is going to be very simple because we've actually done all of the difficult stuff already. So I'm going to remove the getMac function in here in my main code, and all I'm going to do is call my spoof function. The first time I'm going to be spoofing the target. So the target IP is 10.0.2.7. And I'm going to tell this computer that I am the router. So I'm going to tell him that I'm 10.0.2.1. And then I'm going to do this again. Instead, this time I'm going to tell the router that I am the target computer. So effectively, I'm sending these two messages right here. I'm telling the target that I am the router, telling the router that I am the victim. This will put me in the middle of the connection. Now I got the IPs using my scanner app. So as you can see, if we just run our network scanner, we're able to see the router and the target. And we can also confirm the router IP by doing route N, as I showed you before. Now I'm going to save this. And before I run this, I'm going to go to my Windows machine and clear this and then do ARP-A again. And as you can see right now, the ARP table is looking normal. We have the router's IP address associated with the right MAC address, which is the router's MAC address. After running my command, the router's MAC address should change to the MAC address of the Kali machine, which is this one. So let's run our program by doing python arpspoof.py. And as you can see now, it's saying it sent two packets. So the first packet was going to the client. The second packet was going to the router. Now if we run ARP-A again, as you can see, the MAC address that's associated with the router is changed to the MAC address of the Kali machine. So now this computer thinks that I am the router, and the router thinks that I am this computer. Therefore, anything that this computer will send, if it's trying to go to a website or do anything on the internet, will be sent to the Kali machine, where we'll be able to read it, edit it, modify it, do whatever we want with it, and then it'll be going to the internet or to the router. Again, when the router sends any responses, they'll be going back to us. We'll be able to analyze them, and then we'll forward them to the victim. Now we'll go through all of that later on, but I want to show you something else right now. Now if I just go and open my browser, and let's say I just wanted to go to bing.com, now you'll see everything will work fine. But if we go back and do ARP-A, you'll see that the MAC address went back to the right one, to the default one, to the right MAC address of the router. So we're not the man in the middle anymore. Now this is happening because we're only doing this one time. We only sent one packet fooling both the router and the client. If we actually want to stay the man in the middle and maintain fooling both the router and the client, we need to keep sending these packets for the period that we want to fool them. So one packet is not enough. We actually need to keep sending these packets continuously until we want to stop the attack. Therefore, we need to modify our code in a way so that it'll keep executing these two lines repeatedly. So to do that, we're going to use a while loop. Now we had an example of a for loop before, and we've seen how we can use a for loop to iterate over lists. In this lecture, we're going to have a simple example of using a while loop. Now again, you can use loops to do so many things, so this is just a small other example. So we're going to say while true, I want you to do these lines. Now the way that a while loop works is, first of all, it takes a condition, and in our case, we're given the condition as true. And then, for as long as this condition is true, it's going to execute the loop body. So this is the loop body right here. As you can see, it's tabbed. It's following the same syntax that we usually use when we're using functions or if statements. So for as long as this condition is true, it's going to execute these two lines. Now this condition can be anything that Python accepts, so we can be comparing two variables, we can be checking if something is greater than something, if something is smaller than something, if something is equal to something, if a list contains something, and so on. And then the loop will run for as long as this condition is true. Now in our example, we're actually not using a condition, we're literally just saying while true, I want to execute these two lines. So basically these two lines will keep executing for as long as our program is working. Now just so that we don't send too many packets on the network, I'm actually going to add a delay to this loop. So I'm going to say time.sleep and I'm going to put 2 to sleep for 2 seconds. So now what's going to happen is as soon as we execute our program, we're going to hit this while loop. And the condition here is true, so this loop will keep executing. So first of all, it's going to call the spoof function with these two values, spoofing the client that we are the router. Then it's going to call the spoof function with these two values, spoofing the router that we are the client. Then the Python will stop executing for 2 seconds. So it's literally going to sleep for 2 seconds. Nothing's going to happen. It won't do any work. Then it's going to go back up to the start of the loop. It's going to check my condition, which is true. It's always going to be true. It'll execute these two lines, sleep for 2 seconds, go up, check the condition, again is true, execute 2 lines, sleep for 2 seconds, and so on. This will keep executing until I press Ctrl+C. Therefore, I'll be able to fool the client and the router and redirect the flow of packets for as long as the program is running until I press Ctrl+C on my terminal. So let's see this in action. And I'm getting this error because I forgot to import the time module. So I need to go in here and just say import time. And then run this again. And as you can see now, it's sending 2 packets, sleeping for 2 seconds, sending 2 packets, sleeping for 2 seconds, and so on. So now, if we go on our Windows machine, we run ARPA. The router's IP is associated with Kali's MAC address. Now if we go to Firefox, and let's say we just go to test. Now the target lost their internet connection because the data is actually going through the Kali machine, but the Kali machine needs to allow packets to flow through it. So this is nothing to do with Python. We actually need to enable IP forwarding to allow packets to flow through my computer without dropping them and therefore work as a router. So to fix this, we just need to do echo 1 to proc sysnet IP version 4 IP forward. And now if we go back to the Windows machine and just go to Bing, as you can see, it works perfectly. And if we check our ARPA, you can see that we are still the man in the middle. The router's IP address is still associated with Kali's MAC address, and everything is properly flowing through the Kali machine.